Hi, welcome. In this video, this is part 3 of my extended breakdown series by way of a conversation between Robert Cabral, pictured here on the left here, and the president of the International Association of Canine Professionals. And so using this video as a framework to go through, cover off on many talking points as I unpack this conversation between these two individuals. Now, here just to mention, I just recently put out a video on both my YouTube and Rumble channel talking about, I want to talk about this just for a moment, my response towards those who I consider to be, fence riding, double-minded individuals. And understand this is directed not towards the general public, dog owners that I help, on a daily, weekly basis, but the dog training community. Okay, those who are either trainers or are hardcore followers of individuals who are invested sometimes years into identifying as through balance training, force-free training, play, dry-based training, quasi-Cesar Millan type of approach. Those who bounce around, okay, all over the place, and considering the state of the dog training community, okay, but these individuals will come on to my videos, make comments, both positive, negative, and then you'll see them over, okay, on these individual channels, the people who I've confronted and who have engaged in personal attacks, cheap shots, just absolute garbage. And these same individuals be over there offering positive affirmation, support. And understand something here moving forward is I have absolutely zero use for interest in that type of behavior from these individuals. Okay, and the reason for that is, again, I talk about, I put out information, it's very clear. And here's the interesting thing. These are the same people who will complain they don't understand what I'm saying, who are struggling in their own journey. And these are the people who are hanging out on these other channels, elevating these people up, and then will go on all day long, complain that they don't understand what I'm saying. So I have no use for that. Understand that if I see you on my channel, you're leaving comments, you're one of these people, you're just going to be removed, okay? And that's it. Now move on, because that's the dog train. That's the state of the dog training world. These people are all over the place. They're always I talk about always learning, but never coming to an understanding of the truth, because they're in a type of identity crisis, but brought on themselves. Okay, this is about, again, I talk about this issue. There's no wiggle room here when I put out information. Understand, I talk about these trainers, and this is the thing to understand, they can't back out of this. I'm very clear to say, hey, training is not a learning-based exercise. Those who identify as balanced dog trainers are compromised. They're in a trap they can't get out of. They've been playing the same game. So I'm talking about fence riders. They've been playing the same game, bouncing back and forth all over the place, making money off of this. Very popular. And these, so when people are on supporting these people with their views, their likes, their affirmations, you're part of the problem. Okay, you're part of the problem. And understand, this isn't about me saying, and people can take this way, oh, Dale's just, trying to, he's like a type of cult. No, it's not about cult, it's about truth. Okay, you don't have to follow me. Just if you're engaging, though, with you're part of the problem here with what's happened in the dog training community, then yeah, I have no use for it. So, I'm not a fence rider. I'm not a fence walker. Years ago, again, asking the question to be asked, but again, it's clear. Anyone can go in and do their own research. So understand, these individuals that bounce all over the place, I have no use for it. So, because again, these are the same individuals that will waste my time, complaining that they don't understand. But then when you actually look at what they're doing, bring this on themselves. Okay, they're not invested that way. They're not, following taking the right path. Okay, they're just, part of the problem. So I just want to put it out there. I put a video out. People can take it however they want, but this is directed at the dog training community and the followers of these people. I have no use for it. So if you're a new dog trainer or a dog owner looking for answers, understand the dog training world is a mess for a reason. Okay, this is no accident or coincidence, and so people can take that my response however they want. This is coming. Understand this is coming from my side as a trainer dealing with this. Okay, on a daily, constant basis from these individuals. So it's not just a kind of a normal thing. Okay, this is the dog training world is in bad shape, and so for me, I made a decision. Yeah, I had no use wasting my time with certain individuals. I don't want to waste my time. Go do your thing. You can support these people. Just don't come onto my site, leaving comments, pretending to be invested in the system, and then pretend to not understand what I'm saying while you're over there, bouncing all over the place. I have no use for it. Okay, make up your mind. Don't be double-minded. The truth is right there. It's difficult and it's challenging. I understand, but you're the problem. Okay, understand. Dogs are dogs. This is a human problem. So these fence walkers, I have no use for them. So again, part 3 here. And so this is going to be on Rumble. Okay, I'm going to be putting this series out on Rumble for those who are wanting to gain information, answers. The reason for Rumble again is that and I'm dealing with certain individuals here, and that can be want to engage in copyright strikes. These balanced dog trainers, I've encountered that with Ivan Belanoff's situation. Go look at the videos I put out on that. They're not going to talk about the problem. Okay, it's never going to happen, and so you're never going to see it happen with these individuals. This is going right to the wall. This is going right to the max. This is why you're seeing all these. This is why I have no use for wiffle wafflers and fence walkers. This is all part of it. Okay, this is just one big mess, and so I'm moving forward for those who. And again, it's not about the many. It's about the few here. Understand this is getting really bad in the dog training world. But I'm going to put out information for those who want to shake loose from this, from those who are interested in understanding what the problem is. I know it can be challenging, but it's clear, okay? There's no kind of wiggle room here as to what the problem is. So again, putting in the series out in Rumble, and I'm going to be multi-part here. I'm going to be using this conversation as a bit of a framework for information purposes, okay? So again, you're not going to hear me engaging in, getting personal, cheap shots here. Okay, I'm going to be filling in some gaps as we move along.
Did 20, 30, 40 years ago. Our lifestyle with our dogs is just vastly different.
Like what? What's different?
Well, people more people, I think, used to own more land. Dogs were a little more utility back then. Dogs used to really sort of be more of an integral part of people's lifestyle, I think, 20, 30 years ago. When I was younger, our dogs, I know, were a far more integral part of everything we did. They were with us a lot. They weren't stuffed in a crate. They weren't locked in an apartment or a laundry room.
So here we go. Okay, so this is the thing you're always going to see with this. Understand that anything coming through the lens of a balanced dog trainer isn't going to offer depth. Okay, isn't going to get into this. I talk about the social aspect of the relationship. It isn't about having 20 acres of land. Okay, and I talk about this issue about exercise. Of course, dogs need to be in motion. Okay, they need exercise, just like humans need exercise. But this is about relationship. Okay, this is about the connection. Okay, this is about dogs as social, animals. Okay, and people miss the depth issue here. This is about, and so what happens is the kind of default out here. Okay, the position that these superficial trainers will always take is that their bent will always be towards this thing about trying to package this up through, okay, you need more land. Okay, what has changed? They're trying to explain what has changed. Okay, I'll tell you what's changed. Okay, I wrote a book a few years ago called the Mind and Body Connection. Again, this whole thing about society has changed. Society has become more permissive, more self-focused, more emotionally, self-focused. And so this is like has had a direct impact on that connection. Dogs are social animals, so that defaults into weakness. Okay, defaults into this lack of leadership, this lack of, again, you talk about even parenting styles. I equate this to why permissive parenting has gone through the roof. But look at society, the spillover effect. Society, look at where we're at. We're not in a good place. And so when you talk about this whole issue with, dogs, and again, I understand balanced dog trainers, they've played this, okay? They've played this game. Understand they've played both sides of the fence here from the beginning, just like force-free trainers. And even worse in a lot of ways because, they played off the force-free side of things. To say, well, knowing that, okay, there's problems, definitely, and I talk about type of spectrum. Okay, the further you go away from what a process represents, I talk about the core ingredients, influence, and control being reconciled, okay, through a intentional interaction based method. That's the only way they can be reconciled. Okay, understand that in a way, especially again, once, and understand why I say that, once a relationship problem is underway, to reverse out of it. Okay, to move that tachometer over. Okay, it's got to it's got to come to that, that point, to come out on the other side. So the deceptive nature of what's going on here is that because these trainers are focused on appearances, okay, this is about response in a very superficial way. They're totally looking through a different lens here in terms of how they assess change, how they determine or interpret, the relationship. Not based on connecting dots properly at all. Okay, understand that. So, for them, again, to come up with any sort of a interpretation as to why things have gotten a certain way, they're not going to connect the dots properly. Okay, so understand the whole thing about, having more land, because you can have all the land you want. You could have, 1,000 acres. But if you're, the type of individual that's connecting a certain way with your dog, where it's tying in the way I described through this type of permissive emotional type of connection, and then you add to it a dog that's, say, a Malinois or a Shepherd or a Pit Bull, certain breeds especially, it doesn't matter. You're gonna be in a mess. Someone's gonna get hurt. Bad things are gonna happen, and so it's not about that way. So the thing about, because again, I have people I've helped. They live downtown Orlando with one individual there with his Pit Bull, and great success, wonderful relationship. He doesn't have all the space, but it's because it's about relationship. All dogs care about is how that ties in. Dogs are pack animals, so the comfort that they get, their how they relate to their environment, other people, the world comes in and through that relationship being defined properly. And so again, so the issue about then because understand that the foundation is through that, is through how you're connecting that way. Then you tie in the things with exercise, in certain things, in the issue about freedom. Dogs are connected that way. So, you can have the crate, talking about crate here. But again, this is why people get locked into this issue about, managing a problem where the dog's always in the crate. They can't get the dog out of the crate, because they're not moving forward with actually fixing the relationship. Because that connection isn't being fixed. Okay, talk about that. So understand that whenever you hear these balanced dog trainers talk about certain things, it's not going to line up. Okay, because their whole framework, their whole filter, their whole lens has this bent to it, and it lacks depth. It doesn't connect dots properly by way of how a dog's decision-making process is influenced and governed at that level. Okay, everything starts there. So I want to mention that because again, these conversations, because there's because they want you to believe that they have the answers, no, they're part of the problem. They don't have the answers at all. Okay, balanced dog trainers, they're up against the wall here, and there's no way out. This is why you've seen all the ridiculous stuff happening on social media. Trainers like Robert Cabral making statements like he made about, science has no place in the dog training world, and just the level of total being dismissive, this type of, and then making like T-shirts and coffee mugs and making money off a statement when people are buying into it. That is, to me, that's why I say when I look around the dog training world, when I say I have no use for fence walking, wishy-washy people. Well, that's it. It's like how bad is this already? And people who are like that, yeah, I mean, this is why people wonder why it is I'll take down my videos at times and step away from social media with my series because it's so bad that it's like, okay, I say to myself, Dale, don't even just keep, people that are looking for answers continue to find me, the right people. I enjoy what I do that way. But the dog training world is a whole different entity altogether. But then I feel obligation to say, no, I'm going to step back in. I'm going to just go again for a bit, like I'm doing right now. And because if the ship is sinking and there's not many voices out there saying, hey, it's time to bail out, then you feel responsible to, even if it allows a couple people to shake loose from this garbage, it's worth it. But it's taken on a lot because again, because understand something here, the information I put out is not the type of information that balanced dog trainers want to hear and force free. But the interesting thing is, I get most of the heat I get is from what group do you think? Balanced trainers. And there's a lot more confused, compromised, balanced dog trainers out there than force free. And again, I have no, hard data to look at. Someone can send me and line it up, but I'm just looking around at these, balanced dog trainers. There's a lot of them. And this is why the dog training world is in the state that it's in. They're confused, they're compromised, they absolutely refuse to confront the real issue. And you're not going to hear it on these podcasts with these individuals. I went on that one podcast with Miracle Canine, and I appreciate the fact that David had me on. He was certainly here's the thing, we talk about the anti-dog trainer guy, the Murdoch guy, and wanting to have a debate with me and stuff. I would never. He got, and this is what I say, the cheap shots and the personal attacks. Just look at it. Go look at how that all unraveled. The Miracle Canine, David, he didn't do that. He didn't get into all that type of thing. He was like, at least he was somewhat and more respectful that way. So I went on. I was able to go through all of it. I was a little forceful on that debate. I'll admit that, because I expected to so you go in with a certain mentality because I want to cover ground there. But at least David was respectful, and so I give him props for that. We still don't agree because it's always going to come to that point. Just like, again, when you look at the situation with the anti-dog trainer, why all that unraveled. Ask yourself the question, if you look at the video, when did that unravel? It unraveled the point I put up those videos on the loose leash method. I got into the specifics about influence and control, the specifics about, defining those core ingredients through a process. That's when it triggered off. Okay, there it is. And that goes into the heart of this issue, why balanced dog trainers, they get as triggered, offended. They pile onto these situations like the Jeff Gelman situation. What do you think? And they'll start using that word abuse. What do you think all that is happening at that point? Because there it is. That's the problem. So they're not dialed in the way I talk about. They don't approach training as a intervention. They approach it as a learning-based exercise. And even these quasi-Cesar Millan types, you get into the nuts and bolts of it, it's the same problem. But look at the whole blindsiding issue. I mean, I talk about that.
Or a bathroom, like we're seeing more and more of today. And to be frankly honest, we didn't see, I don't remember seeing problems with dogs in the abundance that we're seeing it now.
Again, you're seeing the problems now, right? I talk about this because society has gotten more permissive, and then these trainers are playing into that. Okay, because think about what I'm saying. So if you approach a force-free dog trainer, right, based on, I talk about this type of spectrum. I mean, it's like, how great is that? I don't have to bring a dog under a level of intentional control or influence. I don't have to approach, a relationship problem as for what it represents as a intervention. I don't have to change my parenting style, right? I can just trust appearances that way. I can have my cake and eat it too. I can pet all over my dog. I can continue to emotionalize my dog because it's all about appearances. Think about what I'm saying here. And so it's like these trainers, including balanced dog trainers, based in fact they're tied in the same way. That's why there are these balanced dog trainers out there saying, "Oh, clicker training. Oh, we offer that. Oh, we use treats." Why do you think they align with the exact same concepts and approach, the same terminology, the same everything? Because they're joined at the hip with this ideology. And so they have the home field advantage. This is why things have escalated to the level that they're at now, because they've played off this permissive ideology, because it's not being based on dog owners' experience of relationship problem. They're playing the fence. Balanced dog trainers are doing the same thing. And so now they're trying to explain, oh, why is this gotten so bad? No, come on now. This is ridiculous. But see, this is how they're going to play it. They're not going to take personal responsibility based on the part they're playing in all of this, period. So I'm going to stop this. This is part 3. I'm going to stop it here. Keep it around the 20-minute mark for these segments here. So I encourage you to check them out. I'm going to be using this conversation as a framework. I'm only like 7 minutes in, so it's going to take a while, an hour. I don't expect that I won't be going through the whole hour here, but I'm going to cover some main points. I'm going to unpack a lot. So I'm using this basically as a framework to cover the narratives here. Understand the dog training world is a train wreck. Okay, understand that's the first. I encourage you. That's the first thing you have to realize before you arrive at what the problem is. I'd encourage anyone looking at my videos, go and do your own research. If you identify as a balanced dog trainer or force-free trainer, you're already in bad shape. That means you've agreed to a certain idea of things. Understand that will hem you in. So anyone comes on to my stuff and starts to go on like a lunatic, and once I realize, and this is the interesting thing, you go into their channels, and you see exactly how they identify. It's like, no wonder they're going off the way they're going off, because as an individual, they never applied critical thinking or asked the tough questions. You have to. Otherwise, again, the question is, well, what do you do? I mean, look at the dog training world. Why do you think it's a train wreck? Like, you're upset over what I'm saying, that you won't even admit that there's a problem in the dog training world and connect the dots as to why there's a problem. So the information is right, the truth is right in front of all these trainers' faces, but they've made the conscious choice that they're going to identify a certain way and not audit, not step back from it, not ask the tough questions, and they're just going to stay within their little ideological comfort zone right to the end. Thanks for watching.